Well, hello, everybody. I hope you are doing well. Welcome to another Christian Perspective in 5 minutes or less. And due to the situation we're in right now, a lot of people have been asking me as a Christ follower who I'm voting for and how am I voting and all this kind of stuff. And I want to first of all say that voting is very important. I think that you need to be part of the process because we are part of our country, no matter what country you live in. If you live in a democratic country where you have the opportunity to vote, I think that's part of being part of your nation, is an opportunity to vote. I even go so far as to say, without trying to offend you, is that if you don't vote, then you don't get to complain, all right? So if the person wins that you didn't want to win, but you just said, oh, I didn't vote, well, then you really don't have an opinion that matters because you don't have any skin in the game, right? Like you didn't take a chance. And I heard someone say the other day that when they cast a vote, they are voting for policies, not personalities, right? And so when people ask me why I don't talk about politics, it's not because I don't think it's important, it's because I think there are things that are more important. So like it's on my list of important things, it's just not at the top. And when I get through talking about all these other things, such as salvation, God's plan for your life, saved marriages, all these different things, dealing with abuse and trauma, all this different stuff, I'll get there, right? But people ask me all the time, and so I just wanted to say, here's my opinion on it. And that is that I am not ashamed of who I vote for, but I don't always talk about it because I don't want to shut down conversations. That's why some people are like, well, if you don't tell people who you're voting for, then you're flimsy, you don't have a backbone, whatever. And that's maybe true for some people, but for people like me, I don't mind to tell you who I'm voting for. I just will tell you that I don't want to end the conversation because so many people don't want to have a conversation. They want to have permission, right? Like they don't want to know what you think. They want to know whether or not you agree with them. And so if I'm talking to someone that I feel like I can have a conversation with, then I'll tell them. But if I'm talking to someone that I get the feeling that you're not wanting to have a conversation, you're just wanting to know if you have someone who agrees with you, then I'm just not interested in getting into an argument, right? So here's the thing. Here's how, as a Christ follower, you should always vote. Don't vote on personality, vote on policy. Here's the thing. And honestly, one of the reasons why I don't just outright just say is because to me, it should be rather obvious. And here's the thing. This is what I want to say. And if you look at this, then you'll know exactly who I'm voting for in November, and that is this. Forget who they are, whether or not you'd want to have dinner with them, none of that stuff, and look at the policies that they mostly support. Like politicians are politicians. A lot of politicians, they're going to move with whichever way the public opinion is, right? But you look at their record, you look at not what they say, but what they have done. What policies are they going to align themselves with, and which one of those sets of policies most closely align with God's word? Because here's the thing, I don't have an opinion, I have God's word. I line up with God's word whether or not I always like what it says, right? There's some things in God's word that I don't necessarily like, but it's still true, and I still go with what God's word says. Therefore, what politician backs up what I think about abortion, which is that abortion begins at conception, not perception, right? Who lines up with the economy? In other words, my view of economy, according to the book of Proverbs, is that you lay up treasures for the next generation. So is this person going to deal with the economy just to make me happy right now? Or is it going to be something that we can set a better alignment for the future? Like I don't want my kids paying for what I earn as far as the deficits. Who is going to line up with something the closest to LGBTQ when it comes to God's word? Who's going to line up with the different taxes and things according to God's word? Just who lines up closer to God's word? And whoever that is, that's the person I'm going to vote for because that person most closely aligns themselves with my worldview. So I want to ask you the question. You look at the policies. Don't read Twitter. Don't do all this stuff. You look at record. You look at policies. Who most closely lines up with a Christian, biblical-centered worldview? That's exactly who I'm voting for. And as a Christian, if you want to do what a Christian should do, then you should vote for that person too. Okay? There you go. 5 minutes or less, Christian Perspective. Have a good day.